Everybody, Anne-Marie, as you know, is talking about President Biden, who will be on Capitol Hill to deliver his third State of the Union address, and it could be his last if he doesn't win re-election in the fall. It's a big opportunity for President Biden as he gets set to lay out his agenda in the midst of an election year.
So let's bring in Chief White House Correspondent Nancy Cordes. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning to you. Yes, it is this golden opportunity, right, guys? It comes once a year. President Biden will have the chance to show that he's got the fight in him for another 4 years. He has the chance to try to appeal to Nikki Haley's voters, some of whom might not be sold on former President Trump. And he'll be doing it in front of what might be the biggest public audience that he'll have between now and November.
Our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken.
The State of the Union is always an important speech, but it takes on added significance in an election year. Tonight, President Biden will focus on policies that appeal to a wide swath of voters, urging Congress to restore the expanded child tax credit for low- and middle-income families and to cap out-of-pocket prescription drug costs at $2,000 a year for anyone with private insurance.
For us, this is deeply personal.
Reproductive rights will also be a focus, with IVF patients and fertility doctors invited to attend the address. Kate Cox, the Texas woman who was blocked by a state court from terminating a non-viable pregnancy, will be sitting with the First Lady.
President Biden is defending reproductive rights, fighting for a national law that would restore Roe's protections.
With the president's speech set to soak up attention, his GOP opponent, Donald Trump, is promising to do a live play-by-play of the State of the Union address. Trump also announced that he's willing to debate Biden anytime, anywhere, after refusing to debate his primary opponents.
He's the worst president in the history of our country.
The race has moved into a new phase now that Trump's final Republican opponent, Nikki Haley, has suspended her campaign.
It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him.
Trump did urge her supporters to join his movement on Wednesday, but only after he mocked Haley for getting trounced on Super Tuesday. In a statement, President Biden said Donald Trump made it clear he doesn't want Nikki Haley's supporters. I want to be clear, there is a place for them in my campaign.
And the way he's going to try to make that case in this State of the Union address is by stressing compromise. He's going to argue that he worked with Republicans on infrastructure, that he's trying to work with them on border security. He is not, Anne-Marie, likely to mention Donald Trump by name very often, but the underlying message is that Biden will reach out to the other side and Trump won't.
So, I mean, we know what the president is going to sort of put a spotlight on because he's been kind of traveling around the country doing speeches on a lot of the stuff that you listed in your package. But let me ask you this, Nancy. When you ask people what they're concerned about when it comes to the president, they always bring up his age. How important is it for President Biden to show that he is strong, that he can stand there for however long these speeches are, that his age should not be a matter for concern?
Image is incredibly important with a speech like this. The fact that he delivers it forcefully, the fact that he is, maybe able to poke a little fun at his own expense, which is something that he tends to do in the State of the Union at some point. The fact that, he kind of can sway with the reactions in the room. All of this is why the president has been holed up for days with his top advisors, both at Camp David and at the White House, perfecting this speech because they know that the stakes are very high. It's this huge opportunity, but it also could have big downsides if it doesn't go well.
Yeah. So last night on America Decides, senior advisor and assistant to President Joe Biden, Tom Perez, explained the angle that Biden would be approaching tonight's address from, I want to play a little clip for you.
Sure.
Yeah, President took office 2 weeks after an insurrection. We had COVID in full swing. We had so much loss of life and, frankly, loss of hope for a lot of people. And where we've come is, we now have an unemployment rate 2 years in a row under 4%. That hasn't happened in 50 years. The infrastructure bill, the American Rescue Plan, the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Safe Communities Act. The president has implemented an agenda that has really transformed lives, transformed communities.
So everything we're hearing from Perez, we've heard from Joe Biden, too. The problem is, you know, if people aren't feeling like the economy is better, then it doesn't matter what the reports say. You know, an investment in infrastructure is great, but a bridge that's going to be built 3 years from now doesn't affect them right now. Is this going to be like the real challenge for the president in this speech?
Sure, and that's why he's got to do two things simultaneously. On one hand, he has to tout the fact that the economy is doing better, that inflation is way down from its peak, that unemployment is down, that wage growth is actually outpacing inflation right now. But at the same time, he has to acknowledge that there are a lot of people who aren't feeling it. It's that old, I feel your pain, Bill Clinton turn of phrase. You know, you can't ignore the fact that people are hurting, or it looks like you're out of touch. So that's something he tends to try to weave into his big speeches, and I'm sure you'll hear both of those angles tonight.
All right, Nancy, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Funding for Ukraine remains a contentious issue in Congress and will likely be addressed in Biden's State of the Union this evening. CBS Morning's co-host Tony Nikole pushed House Speaker Mike Johnson on that issue of funding.
We're actively looking at the options on all of that, on the supplemental that you hear so much about, the supplemental funding. But it's the president who linked the issues. The president sent over months ago his national security supplemental package. It had Ukraine, Israel, the Indo-Pacific, and it had border attached to it. So that's how this conversation began. The president himself started it. Yeah. We have to finish it the right way. We have to take care of America's needs first. And I do not think that's a controversial notion.
So joining me now for more on tonight's address is CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. Nikole, how do you expect the president to address funding for Ukraine and Israel in tonight's speech?
Well, I'm sure he will continue to do what he has done for some time, which is to implore and strongly urge Congress to pass this legislation. I mean, in terms of that national security supplemental, we're talking about $95 billion, the bulk of which would go to assisting Ukraine. Also, there's funding in there for Israel to help Palestinians in Gaza, and also deal with the Indo-Pacific and, ongoing issues between Taiwan and China. So it is a very important package that the president and the White House have been pushing for some time. And as you heard the speaker there say, he believes that border has to be taken up first. But the issue is there was border that was part of that package, and it got stripped out because Republicans wouldn't move forward with it, including the speaker, who said a bipartisan bill that included all of those things was dead on arrival. So that's why we find ourselves in this situation today. There is an alternative proposal that a bipartisan group of House lawmakers are now pushing that includes that supplemental funding, a little less than what the White House is calling for, and also includes some border policy proposals. Unclear if the House or the Speaker will move forward with that. But again, I think you will hear a full-throated push by the president to move that funding package as soon as possible.
In the meantime, things are very busy. The Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says that the Senate will move quickly to pass the spending bill, at least. And the House passed the bill yesterday, so now it's on to the Senate. Do they have the votes? Will it pass by Friday?
Well, unlike the House, there is likely not going to be much drama or fanfare in the Senate. Granted, there are some Senate Republicans who are unlikely to back this package, but, this is a deal that was worked out between Senate appropriators, between House appropriators, and particularly in the Senate, there was a bipartisan effort to compile all these appropriations bills together, so it should move relatively quickly. I think the bigger issue will be when Congress has to take up the next tranche of funding, which could be a little thornier. And as you know, there's a deadline of March 22nd for that funding deadline, which of course will address 6 additional federal agencies.
All right, Nikole, thank you.
You bet.
You can watch coverage of President Biden's State of the Union address tonight beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern right here on CBS News.